This week's parsha is Parshas Pinchas, and I heard a very interesting question b'shem Harav Pinchas Hirschsprung Zatzal, the Rosh Yeshiva of Montreal, and he said, why is it that oftentimes Chukas is paired together with the parsha of Balak, and Matos is paired together with Maseh, but Pinchas is never paired up with any other parsha? What's the pshat? So he says, nobody ever wants to join up with the Kanoi. The Kanoi usually stands alone, and therefore the parsha of Pinchas is always alone. Which brings us to this parsha of Pinchas, where a parsha was named after him, and he was zeicha to the reward of Brisi Shalom Ukuhunas Olam. And what happened in the story of Pinchas? So Pinchas saw Zimri having relations with Cosby openly, and he turns to Moshe Rabbeinu and says, isn't the halacha that you taught us, someone you see is having znus with a goy, with a woman, you're allowed, the akanoi, someone who could do something about it, who wants to do something about it, can kill them. Moshe Rabbeinu says, yes, that is the halacha we taught, and since you were the one to bring it up, you should be the one to do it. So Pinchas goes ahead and slays Zimri. And the Imre Noyam, the Rebbe from Jikov, asks a very interesting question. Pinchas was a student, was a Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu for already a bunch of years. Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of Klal Yisrael. Everyone learned all the halachas from Moshe Rabbeinu. So Pinchas already knew the halachas. Why was he asking Moshe Rabbeinu? And furthermore, the halacha of Kanoi and Poigim Boy specifically requires that the Kanoi doesn't ask. He just does what he has to do, and that's the halacha. He doesn't have to ask. So why would he ask? Says the Imre Noyam, beautiful. Pinchas saw a magefa, he saw a plague going around Klal Yisrael. He needed to do something, he needed to act quickly. However, he knew that if he was a kanoi, and he would be poigim boy, and he would do the act of rectifying everything, then he would feel all haughty and arrogant. And he would say, oh, my tefillas, what I did, that solved Klal Yisrael's problems. And because of the gaiva that he felt would come because of that, and the Gemara in Tainis says that anyone whose prayers were answered, whose tefillas were answered, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu answers him, and therefore is haughty because of it, brings Hashem's anger into the world and punishment. So Pinchas realized that in order to, if he would go and kill Zimri, and now his tefillos were answered, and the Magefa would stop, and he would feel haughty over it, now Hashem's anger would be brought into the world and bring fresh punishment and new magefas. He didn't want to do that. So what did he do? Brilliant. He said to Moshe Rabbeinu, isn't the halacha that you taught us, that the kanoi could do what he needs to do? And Moshe Rabbeinu said yes. So now Pinchas wasn't doing it of his own accord. He was a shliach of Moshe, because Moshe said, the one who said it should be the one to do it. Therefore, by going to kill Zimri, and realizing that it wasn't because of him, it was because of Moshe, his haughtiness didn't overcome him, and therefore no fresh magefa or anger of Hashem was brought into the world, as actually is written in the pasuk. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu said about Pinchas, "Heshiv es chamasi." He subsided my anger. He avoided anger. Why? Because he didn't bring in more anger from being haughty and arrogant. And in fact, what was the reward? Brisi shalom kuhunas olam. Rashi explains that Pinchas's children were Kahanim, or would have been Kahanim after he was born, even if Pinchas himself wasn't a Kahan. Why is that? So why does it say in the pasuk Ulazare Achrav that Hashem's rewarding Kuhunas Olam to his children after him? His children would have been Kahanim anyway. Says the Radomsker Rebbe, the Tver Shleim, beautiful. He says that Pinchas's whole kanoyas, his whole personality, would be lived on through his children. Not just the fact that they'd be Kahanim, chronologically or family-wise. Rather, the inherent traits of a kanoi, of a kohen, would be continued on through his family, through his children and grandchildren. And we should talk to realize that if we see something doing wrong, we should know the right thing to do. Not always is it to stop them. Depends on the situation. But there should be aware of what a kanoi is and what a kanoi does. And we should talk to see the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu b'meher v'yomeinu. Amen. Have a beautiful Shabbos.